Hello, everyone. I welcome you all again to another episode of CT Path. I'm Lovepreet Kaur, your regular host, and with me, I have a very special guest today. It's been a long journey. Until now, we have had people from all the different professions with us on CT Path. But today, we have a very special guest, and she is from the medical line. So, she's basically a frontline warrior who's right now fighting COVID on the front line, and she's doing her best to save her patients. She is a doctor from Delhi. Her name is Dr. Mehtab Nasreen, and I'm glad because she has been the speaker for Telangana, if I'm not wrong, at the National Youth Parliament 2019. So it was a pleasure hearing her. She is an enthusiastic woman. She's a doctor, she's a volunteer. Along with that, she's also into public speaking and awareness. She's doing pretty much a lot of things and has a lot of names, awards, titles, everything on her name. If I start discussing her achievements with you all, it will be a whole video of her achievements. But yes, we'll straight away dive into the video and we'll get to know Nasreen more, and we'll get to know what a doctor's life is, the inside of a doctor's life from Dr. Nasreen. Okay, welcome Nasreen. How are you?
Hi, Lovepreet. I am fine. It's good to be here, and thanks for the introduction and all the compliments you have given to me. And
Oh,
I'm from Anantapur, Andhra Pradesh.
and
Right now, I'm working in Delhi.
amazing, amazing. Okay, so here I stand corrected. She's from Andhra Pradesh. Great. So, first thing first, Nasreen, how are you feeling right now? And what is the situation of lockdown? Though it's not a lockdown for you, and that's why I want to know from you, how's your lockdown been, and how has been your experience throughout the pandemic service?
For me, it's not a lockdown exactly as you said, because lockdown means people are usually confined to their homes and their routine is changed, like the way they used to go out, like the way they used to go to work or school or colleges. So it has impacted them a lot. But on the other hand, it has hardly any impact on me because my regular day, as it was like waking up, following my daily routine and going to work, it's the same right now. So for me, lockdown isn't that different. In fact, it's been little challenging
Yeah.
because like dealing with patients every day is common to a doctor, but in a pandemic like this where the cases are increasing, so the little bit the burden on doctors is little bit more. For me, it's the same. It is not because I work in a PSU, ESIC, which is under Ministry of Labor. So we have OPD. Our OPD is big. Even when it's pre-lockdown or it's during lockdown, it's the same for us. Not a big difference.
Oh, but still, you're doing a great job, and I think doctors are considered gods, especially here in India. And it's true because you guys save our lives. You have all put your lives in danger. You know, people just feel scared of just getting out and getting in contact with people these days. And you guys are treating patients from so near without worrying about yourselves, and that's a great thing. Okay, so now that we're trying to know what is inside the life of an Indian doctor, my first question to you would be like very normal curiosity question. What made you choose medical as a career? Because otherwise, we have this assumption that medical is one of those careers that takes the longest time to accomplish, is the toughest, and by the time you become doctors, you already lost your half brain. So it's a tough field. How did you choose this career for yourself? How did medicine attract you, and how has it been until now?
I have been attracted to medicine just because there are like few factors. One factor was my grandfather. He was a pharmacist and he was a doctor, but not in the allopathic medicine, in the Ayush system. He was a Unani doctor. And like while my grandfather was going to his clinic and like he was seeing patients, I've seen like the way the patients look at him, like after getting treated, the way the patients used to talk to him, the respect he had, that inspired me in the like initial days. My grandfather passed away when I was like just in fifth class or something. So in my childhood it was one of the inspiration. And after that, in childhood, like due to few diseases and all, we have to go to doctors frequently. I was like falling sick very frequently in my childhood. So in my childhood I have like visited many doctors. So that was one of the reason which inspired me, that okay, like when you get some pain, like in my childhood I had appendicitis. So I used to have like stomach pain and all. So when I went to doctor, they used to treat and the pain used to go. So I was like, okay, doctors are like magicians. They can just cure your pain. So I just wanted to become one. And I had a curiosity in sciences anyway. So That was what inspired me to take a doctor, the position of a doctor, and me myself being a like patient in my childhood by visiting all the hospitals. I got inspired, but the main inspiration, that was my grandfather.
Oh, that's amazing. How does it feel? I mean, Nasreen, because you are a doctor, what is the most satisfying part of your job? And at the same time, what's the most frustrating part? I mean, obviously, there are pros and cons to every profession that you choose, right? So, what's that gives you happiness about being a doctor?
Okay, what exactly gives me happiness being a doctor is the part where we treat the patients, where we interact with the patients. We can see people suffering, and when we see people suffering, we have an like our internal conscious tells us like we should do something for them. So being a doctor is a direct way where you can help people.
Yeah.
Indirectly you can donate, indirectly you can bring change, but while being a doctor you can see that direct change. Like you see the patient in pain, you give a treatment, you see the patient fine and walking back with a smile.
Yeah.
So that's exactly this feeling of like the easing the pain from people. That's the best part about being a doctor. And apart from that, medical education, I don't know exactly about the other educations like other fields, because usually I love being more practical with my studies.
Okay.
So whatever I study, I want such a field where we should be able to like immediately apply it. Medicine is one such field. There's also a very good experience every doctor has during his graduation, because while being graduating, like you study something and the same day like you go to hospital and see a case like that and you deal with the patient. So it's like practically learning. You are not learning anything extra apart from what is being used. Yeah, there are like few parts, few theoretical parts. Other than that, that's the best part in medical education. Like that's very practical and that's very soothing. The experience of exploring like the secrets of human body, the secrets
Yeah.
of diseases. So it's like basically knowing about yourself. So that's the best part. And the other best part is like your family, friends, like whoever have any issues, they turn to you. So you can just make their problems go away with your knowledge. So that's another part. Like you can ease the sufferings of your both near ones and also those who are like not near to you. So that's one good part. The frustrating part, as you told in the earlier question, like you told, it's very long. That's one of the frustrating part to most of the doctors,
Hmm.
because when we were graduating, when we were in our +1 and +2 in our school, then our friends who were with us were also entering graduation. By the time they graduated, we were still graduating. By the time they joined jobs, we are still graduating. And like we can see all our friends advancing in their careers, and we are still still we are graduating. And after that, I have like basically changed my profession. But people who are strictly to medicine, then they have to give like initially the medical entrance itself is tough.
Yeah.
So after giving the medical entrance, the another frustrating part is like the medical exams. They're like really little bit tough when compared to the other exams, because the books are voluminous, and apart from that you have to remember a lot of things,
Yeah.
and you have to understand a lot of things. You both
Right.
need like memory and reasoning. So sitting for long hours for many people, like they need a lot of hard work to crack the medical entrance. I'm not saying like all the cases, but most of the cases.
Yeah.
And after that you have to go for the exams, and they're like exams after exams. Then after that you have to give again an entrance. In internship it's like a little bit hard in government hospitals.
Yeah.
And after that you have to give entrance for PG, and it's highly competitive again, because the cream who are being selected as doctors, they again compete for getting into
Yeah.
a post graduation. And
Very.
after that, in that post graduation too, for suppose like I love medicine and I love psychiatry, like I have to get a very good rank to get medicine in my post graduation. So
Oh,
even if I get a less rank, I have to settle with a branch which I don't like, or
okay.
which I don't have an interest in.
Yeah.
Or again, I have to sit for 1 year and like slog for one more year. So
Okay.
the duration of medical profession, the medical degree and medical post graduation in our country, especially because we have very less seats both in undergraduation, and the ratio of the undergraduation and post graduation seats is in fact like very less.
Yes.
So that's the main issue, because people spend half of their lives, the most productive years of their life,
Yeah.
where they can like do really good things into studying. So by the time they settle, it's like half of life is already gone. So
Yeah.
that's the most frustrating part. The second part, like it was not like in previous days, it's like in these days it has started. You're witnessing violence against doctors at various places. And yeah, I agree that there are bad doctors, and as you told, doctors ko bhagwan mana jata hai. There are good doctors too. There are bad doctors in every profession. There are good people and there are bad people.
Very true.
Because of few bad people, people have stigmatized, like people have generalized all doctors to be like corrupt, all doctors to be
Yeah.
like inefficient. And
Yes, yes,
so
yes.
basically, when you spend 7 to 8 years of your life into studying something,
Yes.
and you are passionate about it and you are
Yes.
working hard for it, then
Yes.
when someone just passes a lame comment like, okay, you're commercial, or you are like doctors are money extractors and all those things, so that is little frustrating for us. That is the most frustrating part personally for me. And for other doctors, the frustrating part is usually people tell that doctors earn a lot, but it's a myth. It's not such, because you have to graduate, post graduate, then you get a regular salary as your engineering or other law any other friend is getting. So these myths regarding doctors, these frustrate us a lot.
Understandable. No, like it's true because you're working hard for so many years in a stretch. As compared to us, if you're studying longer, you're spending more money on your education. It's obvious that your career should yield you something very good. That's obvious. And in fact, I would say the frustration part that you mentioned here is sometimes the factor which demotivates students, and they skip medical, they come out of medical education, or they drop medical education, they don't even go for it. I've seen some of the very enthusiastic people who really wanted to get into medicine not getting in because of a lot of reasons, financial and social. And according to, and along with them, the frustrating parts that you mentioned, they do take it very seriously, and they this is something that demotivates them. And again, violence against doctors, harassment. Nasreen, this is happening with everyone these days, because since the lockdown has started and online education has, speeded up, since then teachers have been harassed, and they have been bullied a lot on online media. So this, for any professional, whether he or she is a doctor, a teacher, an engineer, or even a jobless person, bullying or harassment and trying to, just create, just living in myths that they're living a perfect life is absolutely wrong against anybody. And this is something we need to take really seriously. So out of this session, I hope this is the first thing that you will always remember. Do not target any doctor. Of course, they are good and bad everywhere, and those who are wrong, they should be sued for sure. But then because of that, you just cannot blame the entire doctor community, because a lot of them are saving our lives. So yes, a lot of respect to you. Having said that, Nasreen, before I proceed to my next question, I would ask you that, do you have any take a trip a trick or a tip for the children who drop out of medical education because they get scared of these challenges that you mentioned about? So is there any trick? What kept you going?
Okay, so basically, what kept me going is because I loved this profession very much. I came to it by myself. There was no external force, because in my college there are like different kind of medical students.
Yeah.
Again, when it comes to medical students, we can't generalize them all. Like for some students, it's like they love studying medicine. For some, it's a career option. For some, it's like usually it's like a pressure from the family, because you have seen, especially in our country, whenever the students reach like a first or second a year, like in 11th or 12th class, their parents start guiding them, like you should be taking this, you should be taking that. So there are like little amount of students in that category who like have taken it purely out of pressure. They are very intelligent, so they have cracked the exam and they have taken it out of pressure. So basically, number one tip would be, do it only if you love it, because this is not going to be very easy or a cakewalk if you don't love it, especially. See, because if it's any other degree, it's just a matter of 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years. But here you are like nearly for 6 to 7 years. So my first suggestion would be, if you don't love it, don't come for it. Because think about it, because if you have a really passion like to study medicine or to serve people or something kind of that, then only come for it. And especially my request would be to the parents, like, this is not very easy, because in other studies, like, you just have to study the books, you have to go to the labs, and practically you have to do. Here people have to do different sort of things. Like in our first year, if I have to elaborate a little bit, we have a subject anatomy, where we have to dissect a cadaver, a dead body. We have to spend entire year with that single dead body, dissecting it, studying about each and every organs. There are few people who have the phobia about dead bodies. Initially, even I had that. So, despite of that phobia, I had a love towards medicine. So that's what kept me going on. But imagine a person who don't like studying medicine on the first part and is also scared of dead bodies in the second part. So it's really frustrating for them.
Yeah.
So the only single tip would be only do it if you love it. And if you have any queries like it is satisfying or not, I can definitely say that medical science and MBBS, being a doctor is one of the most satisfying jobs I can ever think of, because I have not done other professions, but I can say that it's the most satisfying job. If you want job satisfaction, then definitely come to it. Then other tip what will keep them going when they are scared is just think like after 4 or 5 years from there, if you are an aspirant for medicine, like if you are preparing for becoming a doctor, giving a medical entrance, it's little bit harder. So when you feel like giving up, just imagine yourself after 5 to 6 years, or even as early as you join medicine. As early as you join medicine, you will be dealing with real people, you will be treating them, and you will be seeing that the people smiling because of you, many people getting eased of their pain because of you. So that satisfaction, imagine about that satisfaction in your mind, and I guess it will give you such a good positive boost to keep going.
Amazing, amazing. That's great. So now that you said, Nasreen, that you really, were connected to people, you got this experience. Medical education is practical. It gives you an experience of working with people, allows you to interact with people, allows you to cure them. So I'm very sure that this feeling would have attracted you towards volunteering. By the way, all the viewers, if you don't know, Nasreen is very, very active volunteer, and she's been working everywhere for, for the welfare of people, for the welfare of society. I want to know, what's this connection between you being a medical student and a volunteer? Now you're an UPSC aspirant. So, like, what's this chain going on?
Okay, that exactly starts like volunteering, exactly starts every medical student, I say, is a volunteer. Because unlike other fields in medical school, like after the first year, we have our curriculum is divided into 4.5 years and then 1 year of internship. So in the first year, basically you are like a normal student of any other curriculum. Like you go to classes, you listen to teachers, and after that you go to labs, like you dissect dead bodies, you perform like experiments on blood, urine, and all those things, and that's like a regular thing. Then after that, from your second year itself, you start going to hospital. Like in our second year, our curriculum would be like in the morning. Like it will be different in different states, but it's common. Like half a day you will go to the hospital, and half a day you will be spending in the classroom.
Yeah.
So while you go to the hospital, so you will be exposed to variety of people. Like basically, for personally me, I come from a government hospital. So there you see different kinds of people. People from villages, people from remote areas, people who are very poor, because usually in a government hospital the people are usually from middle class, below middle class, or from the lower classes. So when you see people from those lower middle class and low like the poor people, you can see like a patient is suffering, and if he's a bread earner of the family, or he's like a mother, she's a mother, or she has children, you can see the other family getting affected. They stay in like shelters on roads, on the like the verandas outside the wards. They stay in very very poor hygienic conditions, they don't have proper food to eat. So that's where you start empathizing with them. That's where you see like what life exactly is. Because I come from a middle class family, I have not seen that many difficulties as I have witnessed them seeing. So that's where you witness like okay, life is not easy for everyone. These are the harsh realities of our society. So an inherent curiosity inside you, or an inherent empathy inside you, it pushes you to do something for them. Like sometimes like collecting some funds and giving to them, sometimes giving some food to them, sometimes giving some clothing, like mediating between donors and like providing it to them. So it's how a medical student becomes a volunteer. And after that in like it's 3.5 years, we go to hospital every day, and in final year it's like completely, it's like hospital based thing. So that's how the more you interact with the society, I believe that volunteering starts with empathy. Like once you start seeing the reality, once you start empathizing with them, then naturally that instinct comes inside you that you should do something to make the situation little better. So that quest for that little betterment was what made me an volunteer. And apart from me, like we started an organization then in our second year. Not only me, there were all other medical students of my class and other classes, our juniors, our seniors who joined us, and we started addressing little issues, whatever we can do. So that's how my transition into becoming a volunteer came. And in third year especially, we have a subject called community medicine. So there we, rather than dealing about the human body and how diseases work in human body, what we work is like how the social part, like how you live in a society, what are your living conditions and how it affects your health. This is like the link you study in third year. So that's the part where most like where my mind changed, mainly like from the curative part, from treating patients to becoming a cause where you can create such conditions where there is no more like preventable causes of diseases. Like there are many diseases like malaria, dengue, all those mosquito borne diseases, and there are many other diseases which can be prevented by basic hygienic condition and basic nutrition. So that's where I started, like rather than working on the treatment part, it would be better for me because I was my orating skills were little good. So I had the capacity to convince people, I had the capacity to formulate like plans or something. So then I decided, so when it's my strength, when medicine is my passion and people are the ultimate goal whom I want to serve, so it's not like only like a doctor I can serve, I can serve as a volunteer too. So that's when it started. And after that it went on, and in my final year then we went to internship. In my internship, like I was very much influenced by my DM, my district collector, my district magistrate, and the works he did for our hospital. And like I had posting in rural villages and cancer hospital and all those where I saw the district administration working. And I thought like that's a very potential area where my efforts can deliver more.
Yeah.
And I had an inherent curiosity towards administration. So that's what made me like this transition from a doctor to a volunteer and right now a UPSC aspirant. That's what made that change.
Very interesting. That's a really interesting story, and I think most of the UPSC aspirants, like not most, I would say, but like some of them have really interesting stories at the backdrop. They come out from engineering, go into MBA, then go for something else, and then finally end up being into preparing for UPSC. I wish you all the best for your future endeavors. By the way, I really hope you crack your prelims this time. Okay, the next question is again derived from the answer that you gave before. Like you were saying, you have been into a lot of you have been doing service in the rural hospitals. You have been into hospitals in cities and states, the well developed ones, government ones, private ones, everywhere. So what difference did you find? What is the difference in service, and how is it providing the patients with better facilities? So what can be done to improve those who are not good as of now, and what is the major difference?
Okay, this is actually a very important area. Very important area. Like many people don't have idea like what's different, because usually people say that private hospitals are very good compared to government hospitals, but actually the reality is entirely different, and there are like many differences at each field. Like initially, my internship was in a government hospital. So in a government hospital, and right now also I'm working in government sector. So in a government institute, what happens is the patient doctor ratio, like a doctor and the number of patients he sees every day is more. Like we when I was in internship, the professors who used to accompany us, like we used to assist our professors in seeing the OPD, and even we used to see minor cases, and we used to refer those cases which we can't handle to them. So each professor, they used to see 200 to 300 cases.
Oh, wow.
So in a stipulated time of 4 to 5 hours, when you are forced to see 200 patients, and mathematically if you think the time you can devote to each patient, it's very less. So in that short span of time, it's impossible for a doctor to completely listen to a patient, to completely understand what his problem is, and to give him the proper treatment. On the second hand, if you start treating like like asking patient like entire history and like treating them holistically, what happens is by the end of your shift you leave a huge line behind. Then again, it's disappointing for those people who are standing in line since morning. So on both way, even if you want to cover all the patients, it's not possible to see properly everyone. And if you see less patients qualitatively, then all those patients who have been waiting from morning, like they come from far villages, they come from very far villages by coming in buses and all those things, they expect to get treated that day. And if you're not seeing them, that's also injustice to your job.
Yeah.
So balancing this both things, like seeing all the patients in the stipulated time and in a qualitative manner, is a really big challenge that government doctors do face. So that is the main reason why people feel that government hospitals are bad. But trust me, they're not at all bad, because usually in the system, people don't know that like after their medical exams and after they get graduated or post graduated, the doctors who has like the highest merit, who have like the good marks or who are good in skills, are taken after interviews and after seeing their scores. So usually the best doctors are usually found, when you see the like quantity wise, in government field. So after that, in private fields, what happens is the doctor patient ratio is very less.
Yes.
So I worked in a, like during my internship, and after my internship we have like some free time, like some peripheral postings where you are like working only 4 to 5 hours in the hospital. So in that other time, I used to go to a super specialty hospital to work there, because that was the best hospital in my district right then.
Okay.
So I wanted to learn about new equipments and all. Another loophole in the government system is lack of equipments.
Yeah.
Like ours was a district hospital, ours was a very big hospital, but like some basic investigations will be there, like CT scan and MRI. Even like when I was doing internship, there was no MRI machine in our hospital, despite that was the biggest hospital in the district in like government sector. So that's another loophole. Like you don't have equipment. Like the doctor wants to treat a patient, he can diagnose up to an extent. When he has a doubt, he has to confirm it with investigation.
Yeah.
So you don't have proper equipment to investigate. And if you cross all those hurdles and if you want to treat a patient, there are a limited basket of drugs available in the government sector. Like in our pharmacy, there are only few drugs available. Apart from that, if you want to treat by using some other drugs, they are not available to you. And our patients are from like the lower socioeconomic status who can't afford those drugs.
Very true.
So this is the main reason where government sector is lagging. And apart from that, in villages, it's the same. Like the OPD rush, the rush is very huge. Each doctor who is like, there will be a village, there will be a PHC in that village. And you know, like in a village, there are a lot of people. So in that PHC, there will be hardly 2 to 3 doctors, depending on the size of the PHC. They have to cater the entire patients. They have to treat them, and the medical officer has to devise plans like how to prevent mosquitoes from coming, how to maintain sanitation, how to maintain immunization like vaccines and all. So it is like both administrative burden and the treating burden falls on the doctor. So that's another like area. And when it comes to private sector, it's like the doctor can treat the patient efficiently, but usually the big corporate hospitals which we are seeing right now, people usually think that doctors are taking all that money, because I have seen the bills are really huge. When the patients get treated, I have always had the habit of seeing the patient's bill, because I wanted to know really like what exactly they are being charged. Because see, when you are working somewhere as a doctor, you are just an employee under a company. Like you will get your salary. Even if you treat 100 patients or even if you treat 1,000 patients, your salary is going to remain the same. So the charges, which are the hefty charges, which we are seeing in big hospitals, those are being laid by the administration, which are usually owned by big businessmen or politicians or some like well-off people who are rich and all. So doctors nowhere are looting people, even in the corporate sectors. I have seen very good doctors. They have like taken those hospitals to very good heights, but still they are just employees. They are not the owners.
Yeah.
So all those unnecessary tests, what people suspect that doctors are like taking the money and all, those corporates, like those are the calls by corporates, not by the doctors. So that's another myth. Like doctors squeeze money from people. No, that's exactly not the scenario. Yeah, few doctors are there, but majority when you take, doctors are they're normal like other employees who are earning regular salary from the corporate institutions. And the other good thing about the private hospital which I worked was the equipment was really good there. So the private hospital, the advantage of working there is you get to like know the latest technologies, and you can treat the patients like with full time and your full attention. But at the same time, you can't help them, because whatever the charges are being levied on them, you are nowhere responsible for that. And you can't, like in most of the cases, you can't even give a concession to them by talking with the management, because the management won't even listen to you. So this is the difference which I have seen while being in a village, while being in a government sector, and while being in a private sector.
Wow. I mean, a lot of myths busting in this session because, to be honest, Nasreen, many of these were the myths which even I believed in, to be very honest. And it's amazing to know that you're so aware about these things, and we've been thinking wrong in so many different ways. So we really need to rethink the profession of medicine and in general all the professions, because just like she said, corporate doctors seem to be more helpless than the government ones now. I don't know. Suddenly, I feel they are more helpless. But yes, I think our government and we all together need to work on the conditions of government hospitals, because I've personally been to a government hospital once in an emergency, and all I know was I felt more sick than I was after going there, because there was no management at all, and even the doctor is crowded by patients around him, in circles, standing as patients standing there. There's no privacy at all, and I think it's hectic for both the doctor and the patients when you don't have cleanliness around, you don't have management around, when you don't have a proper system working there. So I think this is one of the other keynotes that we need to take from this session, that we all need to collectively work for bettering the condition of government hospitals in our own districts. So that's what we can do. Well, it has been an amazing session, Nasreen. I really don't want you to go, but I have another question for you, and I think after that we'll be wrapping up. The next question I want to ask is, right now, I've seen news channels, I've seen newspapers, and people talking about doctors being frontline warriors, putting up statuses about doctors are great, doctors are this, doctors are that. But what's the real situation, Nasreen? That's what I want to know, because I don't think in reality we really implement that sort of a respect that we give on social media. And I think it's really hard for doctors as of now. I've seen some really inspiring stories where doctors have left their kids and their family alone, and they are working day in and day out with people having the infection. And I've seen some of them also giving up on their lives while treating people. So what's the real situation, and what's the game going on? How has COVID time been challenging for doctors?
Lovepreet,
Yes.
are you getting my voice? Because actually there was a little
Yes, yes.
network lapse in between.
I got you. Did you get my question?
Yeah, I guess your question was regarding COVID-19 and what's being portrayed on social media. Like doctors are being shown as saviors there, and what's the ground reality? Are we really being treated as the saviors or not? Was that the question?
That's the better way of putting my question. Yes.
Oh, okay, exactly. So yeah, I can say it has a like mixed answer. The first thing was like basically what's happening in this pandemic situation. One good thing has happened for us. Like see, in people also we can't generalize that all people are reacting in the same way. There are a fraction of people who have really started developing respect for doctors, like who previously didn't care for doctors, like who previously didn't have any respect for doctors. Right now even they are believing that yeah, these people are doing really great job. Because see, how much like whatever you may pay a person like for working for COVID patients,
Yeah.
but as a doctor, when we go to duty, like it's not about me because I stay alone, because I stay in Delhi right now, so I stay alone. But other colleagues of mine, but other like friends of mine and other doctors, whoever are treating patients, they are not fighting alone. They are taking their entire family to wars. Because when you go to a COVID ward or a hospital where patients are being treated, and you go back to home, there is a high chance that you can infect your family members. In those family members, there may be elders, like there may be parents, aged parents of doctors who may get infected and potentially lose their life. And the second issue is even you can lose your life. And thirdly, you can infect your near and dear ones. So this is one thing which money can't buy.
Very.
So this factor has been like has been understood by many people, and they have really started respecting doctors. And apart from that, the way people are showing, like you have seen that when our prime minister said, like prime minister sir said, like to pay tribute to doctors by clapping and all, they clapped. Like even my in my society and many other areas they clapped. But the second day, like the other day itself, when we go to work, we have like heard from patients like okay, you're not treating well, like we hear abuses from patients, we hear even abuses from friends. When they say that we are working, they say that you're not working for free, you're getting a salary for doing that. So there are people who keep status like okay, doctors are great and all those things. They just follow the social media trend, and they don't even respect their own friends who are doctors. So there are this kind of people too. So they're like mixed reactions. On the ground reality, what's exactly happening is the amount of buzz that's happening in social media, that amount of respect we are not receiving in reality, because only those patients who are getting treated. And even you can't believe, in Gandhi Hospital in Telangana, one incident happened. Like one COVID patient died, and the son of that COVID patient was positive. He ran away from the OPD and he started beating the doctor. A positive patient beating a doctor who is not like on protective equipment. So you can see the same doctors who are being treated are bashed every day. So whatever is happening on the social media, if you are really considered doctors as gods, so you will be nowhere doing that. You will nowhere be abusing doctors. You will nowhere be beating doctors, and you will not be so less of gratitude. So the ground reality, I must say, it's mixed. Some people
Yeah.
really respect us, like people like you, many of my friends, they messaged me like thanks for working for us. Like I felt very nice when I saw all
Yes.
those messages. They all, like I have not given any health advice to them, still everyone texted me like thanks for working for us. So many people became aware that okay, doctors are working this hard, and many people, they have not changed. So it's a mixed kind of reality, but yeah, it has done little bit good and little bit bad,
Yeah.
both.
I think yes, we really need to consider the fact that money, the salary that you get for it, it's not gonna buy your life. Of course, that's such a big thing. And to give due respect to doctors, we'll lose nothing, but the doctor feels very happy, because at this point of time
Yeah,
in the
that
pandemic, yeah, in the pandemic,
yeah, yeah. Actually, that's the biggest part. Like more and more people are turning away from the profession, or
yeah,
being like more empathetic doctors are also becoming like normal, because they are seeing like what is the result of all their efforts.
yeah, exactly,
An insult. So they're like more and more doctors have stopped taking risks.
yeah,
So when the patient will beat you, that will only happen when you take an emergency case, when you take a case which has a less chances to survive. So
very
doctors are also changing. They're like ab pitna kyun hai, like why we will get beaten by taking risky cases.
true.
So this attitude of general public is more harmful to them
Yes.
than the doctors, because a doctor will earn even if he take a critical case, or if he don't take a critical case, he'll get his fixed amount of salary. But by this attitude, doctors will stop taking risks and more lives will be lost.
That's true. That's true. If you remember during the first peak of COVID in around I think April, May, something there, I remember there were news flashing about private hospitals not treating people, a lot of doctors giving up on their jobs or closing up their clinics because they don't want to treat people. So those who are actually treating you deserve respect, because this is the only way you can give them back. We cannot give them anything else. But in a time of pandemic, when everything is so negative, everyone is sitting safely at their homes. Somehow, just the doctors are going out wearing those suffocating PPE kits and then treating patients all day long, 12 hours in those gloves. I swear I can't even stay in those gloves for 12 minutes. It's so suffocating, and it's brilliant that you guys are doing that job. And all we can do is just show a little respect towards them. And if you can't show respect, don't even abuse them, don't disrespect them, at least at this point of time in the pandemic. And the ones who really want to bring a change, you have the whole world to you. Come on, go out and bring the change. Go out and talk to people, bring awareness, expose doctors who are wrong, because we're not even doing that, right? We don't have the guts to expose those who are wrong, but we have the guts to they just go and insult the entire community of doctors for those one or two doctors who have done injustice with people. So that's not how we should be doing it, guys. Well, it was an amazing session, Nasreen. At the end, I really want, I can go on talking to you at the moment, but it's time that we close. I really want you to, share a piece of advice if you can for the youth right now, because youth really needs motivation, and people like you who are into so many different things, diverse things, difficult things, and doing it with such grace can really inspire all of us. So, what's your message for the youth?
My message for today's youth will be, firstly, these days we are seeing the trend, don't remain as a keyboard warrior. Like, people sit behind their phones, behind their laptops all the day, commenting on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, thinking that they are getting some change. Yeah, do that. You have to make your voice audible to the world. But apart from speaking, start doing, even from the smallest thing. Like, if you are staying in your home, start helping your parents, start helping your neighbors. Like, there are many in this pandemic, there are many old people who are not very much aware about digital technologies. Help them with paying their bills, help them with digital technology thoda, like, teach them about mobile, laptop. Start from those small things. Like, if your society is there, clean your society. If any nearby village is there, go there, teach students. Or, like, right now it's not possible, take online sessions to people. Like, if you have a spare time, rather than watching something on Netflix, rather than seeing a like comedy video or something, you can do really productive. What exactly is important to today's youth to is to know the value of time, because time once goes will not come. So whatever you are doing, like, even if you have a day of 24 hours, what you do each and every minute, what you do each and every hour, make it count. In any way, make it count. That's the only way you're going to change the society, change the nation, and going to make the entire world a better place. So my single suggestion would be, whatever you are doing, be productive at it.
Amazing, amazing. I think there's nothing more that has to be added to this. So, yes, start working right from your home, start helping your mom, start cleaning up your house, and eventually you can clean up the world as well. It's not difficult. It's just that you need to start wherever you are, with whatever you have, with whatever you can do, with whatever skills you own, and you will own the world. So, we had an amazing, amazing orator, public speaker, a public servant, a doctor, and an IS and a future IS officer, I really hope, with us today, and she has discussed a lot of brilliant things with us. I really hope we can take something from this session. And to take something, I think we'll go in the reverse chronology, starting from her message, because that gives the most basic tip to us to start working at homes, and then eventually we can rule the world. I hope you all enjoyed this, and stay tuned to our channel for more such interesting videos. Nasreen, I'm really, really thankful to you for joining us. It was an amazing experience working with you, and you speak passion. You're absolutely enthusiastic and absolutely beautiful. I would like to compliment you again by saying it's beautiful how you're carrying your identity so proudly and so generously. It's wonderful. I salute you for all your efforts, and all the doctors who are working day in and day out for the service of people. Please, guys, respect them. In all my sessions, I've made this point very clear. Whatever the profession is, and even if someone is not a professional, mutual respect on social media and on face is both really, really important. Take care of yourself, stay positive, and eat healthy. Keep watching our videos, and keep rushing towards your goals at your home. Stay safe. Bye bye.